All right. Cheers, Zach. Welcome to the table.
Yeah.
You made it to Bermuda double-handed. And not only did you do that, you won your class. Pretty awesome. Before we get into your race, recap, who's your co-skipper?
So my co-skipper is Vlad Shablinski. He's my coach with NEKA Sailing. We work at my school web institute with them, and he has been great in helping me grow as a sailor over the past 2 years.
And what does NEKA stand for?
That's the Northeast Keelboat Alliance. It's a nonprofit organization based out of Glen Cove, New York. The goal is to allow high school and college and right after college age kids to sail on keelboats that they normally wouldn't have the chance to otherwise.
And they would, if from her, they bought over the old Figaro 2s from France and have been trying to populate them around some of the colleges, right? Or those kind of the idea.
Yeah. There's another program too called COSC that's been more involved with the Figaros. We have Group 5, the modified Figaro 2. We've got a Custom 40. We have a Kerr 11.5, and we have a few J105s as well.
So you got a little fleet of boats.
Yeah.
Cool. Before we, let's, we'll wind it one way or the other. How did your race go?
I would say very well based on the results. There were certainly times during the race where we weren't feeling too good about it. Especially I think the first day with the light wind was a bit rough. And we were in an odd spot being between the J1 and the A5 where we weren't really fast on either and just trying to figure out how to sail the angles and make the boat work okay.
To be noted, you're only 20 years old, right?
Yep.
And this is your first Bermuda race.
First Bermuda race, yeah.
Right. So from what I know, that you're actually pretty darn lucky because this was, those who have done it, including someone who's done it for 27 years, says this was the best one ever. So maybe either all going to be good or they're going to suck from here on in. So well done on your first one. Yeah. But so can you walk us through the stages of how you guys sailed the race from Newport down to here?
Yeah. So the start, we knew roughly where we wanted to enter the Gulf Stream. As I just mentioned, the wind was a little lighter than we were expecting, a little fluky. So that first bit was just us trying to stay more or less on the rum line, trying to find the right sail. We did probably at least 10 sail changes the first day, which for a double-handed boat is a lot of effort to go through.
There's the we, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's you and him, right?
Yeah, just the two of us, and taking one down through the forward hatchway and leaving it connected because we know in 10 minutes there's a pretty good chance it's going to go right back up. Finally, wind came in pretty good again on our reach. We were making our way to the Gulf Stream and eventually went aft enough when we put up the A2, which we were able to carry for the last 2 days of the race.
Wow.
Yeah, so once that was up, it got fast, the waves built. We were approaching the Gulf Stream a little bit further west of the rum line than we initially intended to, and not quite sure what we were going to do. The wind direction was, I think, a little farther aft at that point than we had initially been anticipating. And we were down below looking at it and we're like, probably makes sense to jive through the Gulf Stream and take that, southwest moving eddy down for as long as we can. So that's exactly what we did. We pulled off a pretty good jive in 25 knots of wind. It is difficult with the big kite and double-handed, but It went as well as it could have. And at that point, the night got pretty wild. We had, 30 plus knots of wind. We were doing at times over 20 knots of boat speed off the waves, sleeping only when we needed to and just pushing the boat, going fast and having fun.
That's cool. But you guys have symmetric spinnakers, right, on these boats, or are they set up changed for A sails?
So Group 5 is modified, so we put a 6-foot carbon sprit on it.
Okay.
Did away with the spinnaker poles and added masthead halyards for the kites.
Making life a little easier.
Yeah, and we also added running backstays in the square top main, so it's a Figaro 2, but it's quite turboed.
Pretty wicked up.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you're probably another one, again, that was hooked into that sort of magic carpet ride. Did you anticipate it being that good? Or are you just sort of like, wow, look at this?
We had, for a while out been studying the weather routing, studying the currents. So we kind of were aware that that would be an option to take that you know, what did you refer to it as?
The magic carpet ride.
Magic carpet ride, yeah. We were aware that that would ultimately be the goal, to line the boat up to go with that. We just weren't quite sure exactly how we were going to do it, but once you're out, I think we connected the dots and hooked in pretty well.
And this double-handed group that you're in, there's guys like Tim Kenner, there's some guys who've been doing it for a long time. And you're the new guy. Did you ever have a chance to sort of meet with them, or are you still sort of the unknown in the group? Well, now you're known, right? Yeah.
I guess now we're known. We had actually, Tim Kent and Kent Racing had done Block Island race earlier in the spring, which we went and we won that race as well. So we kind of had a chance to size up the competition at that. Yeah.
It's cool. But you're this coach in your situation. Has he been with you this whole journey through this boat, or?
Yeah, he kind of within the program has taken on the role of being the double-handed coach. I'm not entirely sure how he got there, because he hadn't done double-handed sailing really before, but I think he's just pretty enthusiastic about it in the Figaros. And
yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, he had been probably the coach I've worked with the most since getting to college. So yeah, we've done quite a few miles together at this point.
What have you learned from him?
You know,
the list is longer. Yeah.
The list is quite long. A lot with like using expedition, doing the weather routing, sailing smart. But you know, he's certainly in a lot of cases giving me, you know, good driving advice, good trimming advice when we're together. And there's a lot of times too, like if it's a, you know, weird wave pattern or something, and he just has the experience of how to mode the boat in that, and he'll just like kick me off the tiller for like 5 minutes, be like, this is how you should be doing it, and then give it back to me and let me figure it out.
Yeah,
so,
okay, fine, I can do this.
Yeah, I think just sailing with good sailors really, you know, helps you improve, just seeing how they do it and being able to try to mimic it.
Yeah. But most of your racing that you've done so far with this boat has been more coastal racing, right? So is this your first full send it into the middle of the
Yeah, this is the first full ocean race.
Have you grasped how cool it was yet, or well, you got to go home, so you got
there's
more of it.
Still got to go home. Yeah, it definitely. I think the word that comes to mind is surreal. You just get to the island, you're like, oh, it's over. We just did the race.
Yeah.
And now I'm here, and it's a good time.
Yeah. Go back to that the night of sort of, you know, top speeds and full send. You're like, it's the same thing as like kids going down ski slopes. The little ones, they're just fearless and they just want to go faster, right? And do you feel like there was a little bit of that in you, that you don't yet know when to pull back?
You know, we've been sailing Group 5 together now for about a year. We did Vineyard, we did Block, we've done quite a few practices.
Yeah.
Before that, we were sailing it not double-handed, but short-handed, like around Long Island and a few other small regattas. So we have a good comfort level with the boat. I think we know in that race, we were certainly on the edge. We were aware of that. You know, we were talking through contingency plans, like should we wipe out, you know, how are we getting out of it? Keeping an eye on things, making sure nothing was starting to give. But I think we were, you know, decently smart with it. You know, a few times we thought maybe the A2 should come down, the A5 should go up. But we kept pushing through, again with the contingency plans, thinking it through.
Yeah.
And I think it paid off in the end.
Did you get here with the boat and sail inventory intact?
Yeah, we had one small tear in the J1. I think just came from, at one point we were using it as a stay sail, just kind of to keep the spinnaker from wrapping around the forestay should anything go wrong. And I think just during that time, we had it kind of eased to not interrupt the airflow too much, and it just flogged itself a little.
Maybe rub it up against stanchion or something.
Yeah, it's around where the stanchion is too, so that maybe did it. But, you know, one piece of sail tape and it'll be good for the return home. And
that's impressive. I mean, you're sort of one of the few that did not blow out a kite.
Yeah.
Maybe a testament to the strength of the sail, perhaps, or just the boat as well. So what is it? These Figaro things. I mean, when they were sailing them around France, they sailed through some pretty hard stuff, and they're built to last in that kind of those conditions, the Biscay. And what is the boat like in those kind of full-on conditions that you had just for that little moment?
Yeah, I mean, this race, it's really cool when you feel a boat of that size, get up and plane the same way a dinghy would.
Yeah.
That race more than ever before, though, it was just this feeling of power as the whole boat's lifted up out of the water as you're flying off the waves. It's pretty incredible.
Good sustained surf. Does the boat hold on to it?
Yeah, I mean,
you're eventually going to plant it at some point, right? Yeah.
At some point, yeah, but I mean, we had times where we were doing like above 16 knots for 3-4 minutes at a time, and with peaks, around 18, 19 knots for that. So,
how about racing the fleet? Tactically, were you playing fleet, or just really sailing the boat to get there?
Yeah, after the Gulf Stream, we decided to kind of head east of the rum line. And at one point, we were looking at the yellow brick, and we're like, oh, we're the farthest east boat. Maybe we should start, pointing at Bermuda a bit. We had the leverage. We were pretty sure that side would pay. I'm pretty convinced at this point that it did, but there was no need to keep going beyond already having the leverage over the boats in our division.
Yeah. Wise beyond your ears, I'd say. But this double-handed thing is just, where did it come? Where did the bug come to bite you?
Yeah, so our program for this race, we were originally planning on sending 3 boats. The third one, Peacemaker, wasn't going to be ready in time, so we downsized to 2. But I just, in February, got a text. So you're going to be sailing this race double-handed. Okay, I suppose. I don't know exactly how it came to be, other than that I think when we were doing short-handed with Group 5 instead of double-handed, I was on it. So I think just that I had the familiarity with the boat that others didn't. But just kind of thrown into it more than it was a choice, really.
I'd say, well, maybe somebody had actually made the right choice. They knew they could see it in you or something, and they said,
Yeah.
well, let's go let the kid do it. Not that you're a kid, but you grew up in Butler, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So lakes to all of a sudden, a gigantic blue Atlantic Ocean. Like, what has that pathway been from Hobie's, you told me, to here today?
Yeah, it was definitely interesting. Getting to first Long Island Sound was a big step up from the lakes I was sailing on most of the time. And then, being in the ocean, it was a bit of a learning process dealing with some of the swells because I hadn't, dealt with that growing up. But it was pretty neat, pretty cool, especially to just not see land for several days when I'm, not used to that.
Yeah, fully checked out. Yeah.
Yeah.
And who did the navigation and routing? Did you guys share that responsibility?
Vlad definitely took up more of the navigation and routing, but the whole thing is, shared.
Yeah.
There's certainly times I'm going down, I'm looking at things, I'm giving my opinion, I'm running a route or two just to see. Before the race, both of us too, expedition and predict wind, just running routes and playing with different things. And I think it's helpful too with the double-handed boats to both have a sense of what needs to be done and not have to rely on him having to explain to me how the boat needs to be sailed to follow whatever strategy he's devising. But if we're both on the same page with the strategy and just do it.
But that's kind of the cool thing about double-handed, though. It's this awesome feeling of being single-handed with somebody down below. You're ultimately sailing the boat yourself, which is an amazing feeling.
Yeah, quite a few times, one of us down sleeping and just being on deck alone.
It's awesome, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. Your first perception of going through the stream, would you say you had an easy crossing or a bit of a lashing?
At that point, we were also getting the squalls, so it was definitely a little bit wild. We had half a tank of water ballast for the righting moment, but beyond that, we started bearing our bow too much, so we drained a little bit more to help the boat pop up. So it was definitely a interesting trade-off there.
Yeah.
Good sailing. That was, I think, the top speed came that night of 20.5, 21 knots.
Feels good, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Are you, I guess we get, at Webb Institute, what do you do? Or what's your track of study?
Yeah, so Webb Institute is a small school in Glen Cove, New York. It takes 28 students per year. The tuition is paid for, but the only major is naval architecture and marine engineering. So I'm hoping to be a naval architect, maybe into yacht design, although I'm not entirely sure yet. But it's a pretty narrow school.
Yeah, really
everyone
is,
there is, some way going to the marine industry.
Yeah, that's cool. It's probably early days yet, but I guess, now that you've had a good race, and if you could once you get your hands on the CAD and design tools, what kind of boat will you design for this race?
I haven't really thought about designing for this race as much specifically, but I mean, for me, when I look at different yachts that I like, I'm always a fan of the West Coast ULDVs. And,
you like the missiles.
Yeah. I like the aesthetic of them. I like the off-wind speed of them. So something along those lines. Just go fast downwind.
It's funny, we talked with Stan Honey earlier, the legend down there in Illusion of this California, of how a boat so old can continue to win races, and all these modern wide body boats. Are we wrong?
It's interesting, and there's certainly something beyond just making a boat that's wide and light and saying it'll be fast because of that. There's definitely a lot with drawing up good lines and seeing how it's going to react. And I think a big thing with the Figaros that's underrated a lot in yacht design is the directional stability. But really with the hull form we have and the twin rudders, that you can just sail the boat and
you can pile on the power, huh?
Yeah, and have the control and not roll and not lose the rudders and just go fast is a underrated quality, I think.
Yeah, we should just talk to Stan someday, because he may counter to that one. That, as he was saying, is sometimes when you get that shape, the boat just wants to constantly turn upwind, right? And you're just always fighting the rudders. But anyway, so it's amazing the difference between the California and as the same the boat you're sailing, and the efficiency of getting down the track. It's interesting. Are you surprised by the fact that you won your class? I mean, when you finished here, did you know, I guess, based on the correct time and everything, that you had this thing pretty locked?
I mean, we had been watching the boats, and I don't think we were expecting to do as convincing a win as we had. Yeah. I forget the delta between us and the second place boat, but it is sizable. And at the time, we were still looking at the boats behind us, wondering if any of them would catch us. I'm glad they didn't, but
of course.
I don't think we realized really until we started watching more results go in just how well we had done.
And I think at one point you mentioned during the night, though, that where some may have switched down to jib tops or whatever it is, because of you guys just kept sending it.
Yeah, I mean, we had...
That's gotta help.
Yeah, the A2 was up for, other than a few moments where we tried the A1 when it went light towards the end, we had the A2 up for the last 2 days continuously. We thought about the A5 at times, just to be a little safer, a little less likely to blow something up. But the other consideration on the double-handed boat is if it is blowing 30, if you don't think it's going to get worse and you go for a sail change, that's another place where with just two of you, you could really screw things up.
Wrong. Things go very wrong very quickly. Yeah. Cool. Well, you got the race back, and then I guess your school.
Yeah.
You got your eyes set on a Vendée campaign or something like that. So now that you've started this.
I think having done double-handed sailing, that I can safely say I don't want to do single-handed. It's a lot of exhaustion. I was at one point going to take an hour nap and undressing from my Fowlies, and all of a sudden I hallucinated that one of my classmates on Desperado was on deck trimming our spinnaker for us.
Oh, nice.
At that moment, I knew that double-handed was enough for me as far as short-handed goes.
How whipped were you when you got here?
By that point, the final day was easier, so I was actually more rested than I was at the final night. The final night, though, was pretty brutal.
Yeah, when you're hallucinating, you're tired. Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, that wasn't. It was as I was relaxing, getting ready to crawl in bed, at least. I think maybe I just started falling asleep a little earlier than making it into the bunk, but it wasn't.
Right down the
great.
floor, right? Doesn't matter, right? Yeah, we'll sleep wherever you can.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, great catching up with you. It was nice to meet you, and congratulations on the win.
Thank you.
And where can people follow NEKA Sailing or you in your career? I mean, you're just getting started. And if somebody would hand you a check, would you take it and go build a boat?
I've only done 2 years of college so far. I don't
Wow,
know.
you know,
I don't know if you'd want to trust me with all that money yet, but
So far, so good. First Bermuda Race, first double-handed class win with a good fleet.
yeah.
It's not bad. So.
But yeah,
Well,
NEKA
cheers to that,
Sailing,
yeah.
new Instagram, Facebook, there's a website, and you can also follow Web Institute and Web Sailing on Instagram.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks for your time and appreciate it, and have a great race back.
Thank you.